The final panel is, as alluded to before the break, about virtualization and gamification, with a focus on the cycling industry. And with the summer approaching an end, we can now see how we can exercise during the English winter. And this panel is moderated by a great friend of Concentric, Ting Deng. So please enter the stage. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming down today. The topic today is officially about virtual reality, gamification, and the fact that it's taken off with the likes of Zwift and Wahoo and Tacx in cycling. And this is the future of sport because we've seen a lot of adoption. I mean, some of the sound bites is, Mark Zuckerberg thinks virtual reality is the next big thing in tech. Elon Musk thinks that we're living in a video game. And with the success of things like Pokemon Go and Zwift, I think, we want to sort of delve a bit deeper into what's driving that. So with me today are sort of 6 panelists. Matteo Carrara, who former Pro Tour rider and cycling coach and to the stars in London. Marcin, who's the founder of AbsolutBlack on the equipment side, building innovative oval chain rings for the industry. Need no introduction, Michael Rogers, who's won more world championships than Bradley Wiggins, Chris Froome, and Chris Boardman put together. Simon Tacx, the commercial director at Tacx, one of the leading players in rollers and trainers, and a long-time player in the industry. Kevin Abt, who's the director of international sales and marketing for Wahoo, which is the sort of the tech startup in the training and cycling field from the US. And we've got Steve Beckett, who is the VP of Marketing and Customer Acquisition at Zwift, the market leader in indoor training, platform, and virtual cycling. Steve is also comes from Team Sky previously, where he was the director of cycling. So welcome, everybody. The first topic we have is, we've seen this, really strong growth in commercialization of VR and gamification in cycling. I mean, Steve, you were saying earlier that you're logging, 10 million kilometers on the internet a month these days?
In a good month, yeah.
Yeah, but what do you think is the driver of that?
Well, I think it's 3 things. It's software, hardware, and people. And I think they all need to come around at the right time, or the same time, as it were. So if you look at the drivers of cycling, or let's just say active lifestyle, not sport as we know it, sort of soccer and cricket and tennis and that. If you look at cycling, cycling's going through almost like a golden age that we remember in the 80s when people started running. It was very strange running at the time, but it became very mass market. And if you look at cycling, I mean, it's very, very synonymous with Team Sky and Mick, and an elite sport does drive participation. But when we think about London, metropolitan city, town planners, environmental thinking, wellness, people going abroad, not to sit on beaches now, but to be active. All these things come together to create demand first. So you need a pipeline, you need a funnel to build a business. So I think cycling and running I'd put in the same category there. And then if you think about like gamification, let's not over-engineer it. When I grew up at school, I played games, right? Sport. Well, the Olympic Games were only the week. So gaming is very popular, and let's just define gaming as sport. But you can't do sport in the home because it's very sort of solo, it's not very social, very engaging. There's no like really immersive propositions until hardware and software really enabled that. So I think Humphrey and the first panel did a really good job of saying you can't have a siloed mentality, you can't really be proprietary. So in the advent of people like Wahoo, who were very disruptive in the hardware space, they made themselves open to software like Zwift. Other people followed, like Tacx, who had their own proprietary virtual software. And then what then was enabled was an aggregation of scale. Once you could create a community, you create a network effect, and then you're delivering something in the home which is just like out of home. And when we all grew up wanting to play sport, or having played sport, or want to play sport again, or run, then what we do is we problem solve people's busy lives. You know, it's really as simple as that. And yeah, I'll go back to the whole point about gamification. It's just about, to me, it's about being able to play sport, whether it's competitive or not, and be able to do that in your home.
I mean, Mick, what do you think? I mean, as a pro rider and now manager of different cycling businesses and also a team.
Well, I certainly think it's a very exciting space because there are those, talking from a professional athlete, there are those days that it's raining outside, or it's in Europe it's snowing outside, or it could be down in Dubai where it's 50 degrees outside. Yeah. So many doors open with this virtualization or gamification of cycling. And once again, speaking on that very elite side, it's very controllable. Yeah. So I can precisely do the exact training session that I need. So for me, it's a very interesting space.
Yeah. Hey, Matteo, I mean, from your perspective, you coach some of the most powerful men in the city and also some of the stars as well. I mean, do your clients and your club, do people like training indoors and Zwift and?
Yeah, everyone in London. I'm talking about London because we are in London. Everyone is so busy during the week, so you don't have like 2-3 hours to training every day. So in my opinion, you can concentrate, the really specific session in an hour, and you can do this specific session with the Swiss software on your Wahoo Turbo or the Tacx, and in an hour, you get out from work, go home, jump on a turbo, and you can meet people as well because you can have a chat with the phone, and we can speak with other people. It's very good. It's a very great opportunity, and this is the future. I'm not very big supporter of turbo because in my life, I'm Italian, and in Italy is a little bit different. But when it's raining outside, when it's getting dark very quickly, and then I need to jump on a train and doing some turbo, it's good to do, And then this one is the most enjoy, because you can enjoy more the turbo section.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, maybe Kevin. I mean, Steve mentioned about the hardware element, which is very key to sort of the success of Zwift, and obviously they're a software provider and online player. I mean, what have you guys at Wahoo been doing so well, to support them? I mean, now it's obviously the uptake is very good, and the whole experience has been sort of lauded in the public.
Yeah, I think our approach was twofold. We wanted to make sure that we had an open API so that great software developers like Zwift could work easily with us, and I think that really empowered someone like Zwift to tap into our hardware. And it's a really nice symbiotic relationship with Zwift providing fantastic software that makes the experience come alive, but you got to have the hardware and it's got to be realistic. So we spent a lot of time really focusing on how can we make this the most realistic ride experience indoors, and I think that's really what customers are demanding. If you're going to ask them to step inside, which most cyclists don't want to do, it's really got to feel like if you were blindfolded, you're outside. You can't really tell the difference. So I think that was a big focus on our hardware development. But I think speaking of what's driving this, when we look at where we're seeing a lot of growth, it's in the mega cities. When people, it takes an hour and a half to get outside the city and go for a ride. That's just, in today's busy culture, you just can't afford to do that. So to jump on the turbo in a city, do it in a compact space in your flat and have a quiet experience. A lot of the trainers are now very quiet from where they were a couple years ago. You can easily do it at 5 in the morning or 11 at night, and you can get your workout in, and then you go off along with your day. So that's been a big boost for us.
Yeah. Thanks. And Simon, I mean, Tacx is sort of the established leader for a long time in Europe, and for somebody who also has the software and the hardware parts, and also actually a good partner of Zwift. I mean, where do you see? I mean, what is you've seen this for over many years because Zwift is only a couple of years old. But what is driving this massive growth that we're seeing in the last 2-3 years?
Well,
we started, we're producing hardware and software, and we've been doing the hardware for like 35, 40 years on trainers. The software we started in 2001, trying to bring in the entertainment into people's living room, and also there the gamification started a little bit, but exactly what Steve mentioned, Wahoo's been pretty disruptive in a way, in a good way, that they opened up an API which enables other software companies like Zwift or TrainerRoad to connect to the trainer. We did the same 2-3 years ago, expanding the user base for software platforms as Zwift. And I think the most important change there was that, and I think Zwift is the best example, they created a community which really pushed or grew the market in a very positive way.
And Marcin, from the sort of equipment manufacturer point of view, I mean, and sort of taking a look from the outside, I mean, how have you seen sort of the rise of Zwift, virtual reality?
Well, we're already changing our product line to be more optimized for winter training, for example. So I'm not from, I mean, we have a company in the UK, but originally I'm from Poland, so when the winter comes in, no one basically rides. But in the UK, I've noticed that so many people actually do ride, but the weather is awful. And they need a completely different set of product line to withstand that. That was still today. But what we see now is people who normally ride in really bad weather, now they're moving indoors. So we try to develop the cheaper range of the products that can basically last them through the training bike, and then they move to the good bike. But the funny thing is that I've never seen the need of a turbo trainer really for myself, but when I come here to London each time, it reminds me how busy it is actually. So from my home, it's only a few meters to go to train on a bike in the woods or on the road, but in London, it takes, like someone said, hour and a half to go out. So that market is hugely growing for us as well.
I think the second topic, I think Steve, you mentioned about community, and I think we really want to sort of see, Zwift, Wahoo and Tacx have been very good at engaging, I would say, the enthusiasts, the people who dedicate a significant amount of time to training and cycling. I know, you are working on sort of initiatives in running as well. But how do you think you're going to engage that next layer, right? Which is probably a bit harder, a bit bigger, and more mass market. Is it going to be sort of the way you talked about, which Simon mentioned as well, community, or is it going to be like a Strava type competitive sort of environment?
I think it's first and foremost it's how we don't come across as competitive, because one of the barriers to participation in sport is competition. Classic story of going to try out for a bike club is just tag along at the back, get blown out the back, and that's it really. We don't want to be super inclusive. We've got over 100 Facebook groups of Zwift. The Zwift community, our biggest one's 15,000. We're community driven in terms of what the real growth engine is of our business, whether it's our users or whether it's our partners promoting us. So where we want to go is we want to be really a kind of a home fitness brand, let's just say, with a heritage squarely in cycling. But if you think about the 80s again, and the fitness bike that you bought, which was like a clothes hanger 2 weeks later, what we want to do is bring static bikes or smart bikes like you see with Mick, and we're talking to these guys about developing that kind of hardware so we can be a whole home fitness solution. And that's complementary for running and cycling, which is why we're going after both of those markets. But yeah, community first and foremost. But let's not forget top to bottom. One of Mick's old teammates, Matt Heyman, he was like an old school dyed-in-the-wool cyclist who probably looked at Zwift as a game a year ago, but he fell off his bike and he rode Zwift for 5 weeks and he won the biggest bike race in the world, Paris-Roubaix. So all of a sudden we've got credibility in sport, which probably means that when Bjorn picks up the phone to Mick, it's a much more easier kind of sell now, and that integrity in the products first and foremost. So I think in any product growth, you're going to get the 5% of people that shout the loudest, in our situation, it's competitive enthusiast cyclists. And there's millions and millions of those for us to grow our business, but the big picture is really in-home fitness.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin, I mean, from Wahoo's point of view, I mean, what products and strategies are you guys putting in place to sort of reach that next layer?
Yeah, one area that's really interesting, and it speaks to community for sure, but maybe a little caveat on it. We see a lot of interest from bespoke studios starting up where maybe they only want to have 5, 10, 15 turbo trainers in place running some software. But it's a smaller community. It's a group of cyclists that are coming together. Maybe it's just a group that wants to ride together and they want to be in the same room and have that social banter. Or it could be a situation where they have a coach and they're training for a certain race and they want to do it together. So the community means many different things. I mean, the Zwift platform with the number of users you've accumulated globally. There's also that smaller, more localized play too. So when we think about our hardware development, it's not just a B2C play. There could be B2B options, selling hardware, seeing if there's hardware opportunities, and encouraging studios to pop up and support them as they see fit to really cultivate an experience indoors with a smaller group, but really a passionate group that can come together in that environment.
I mean, Simon, I mean, maybe a slightly different angle to it. The first panel they talked was more about gyms and millennial consuming habits, and and they talked about how technology is changing that, and I mean, what is Tacx doing? I mean, does Tacx have a strategy to work with gyms, or are you still very much focused on cycling?
Our company finds its basis in cycling, and we're strong in cycling at the moment. It's a niche market. It's not as big as fitness. It's different structure. We're selling products to consumers at the moment, and a gym is something different for us, but we're slowly moving more towards that market as well. We, for example, we launched it a week ago actually, a product which is a treadmill where you can run and cycle on, which is quite interesting and flirts a little bit with the gym market as well. So as a company, we're moving more towards it. We see it as a bigger user group, big opportunity. Zwift is moving there as well. So yeah, we're trying to work together with software companies like Zwift and others to be part of that market as well in the future.
Yeah. And Mick, with Virtual Pro, I mean, you mentioned that you're already shipping to gyms. I mean, is that part of the broader strategy to sort of get to that next layer, just beyond the enthusiasts and the sort of the amateurs or the weekend warriors?
Well, I think that the gyms are getting ready to upgrade their hardware because up until recently, the bikes, as Steve said, they were the next version along from the static kind of clothes hanger, as you say, and they're bikes that are relatively closed, don't communicate between each other. So, I mean, we see a lot of room in that market where there's an actual spinning lesson led by an instructor, and he can easily reach in and see how Joe is going, how Angela is going, and make this kind of group effort, and also the social side comes into it. There creates competition, and I think that's exercising together is still fun, and it's valuable.
And how do you see this? How do you see this community coming together, right? Because there is Facebook, there's Strava, there's Zwift, Peloton does it. Obviously, Post Planet will kind of do that as well. But I mean, I put it out there to you guys. I mean, do you see some sort of TeamSpeak is obviously an application a lot of people use as well. How do you see it coming all together and engaging people?
Well, I think you've probably got to work across outdoors and indoors in terms of the gym and home. So I'd be contradicting myself if talking about being an open platform, not thinking about the gym, which is why we've developed an iOS platform so people can take an iPad to the treadmill at the gym. And when we think about quantification of self being a really big thing, and we work with Strava, everything in Zwift's uploaded to Strava, we're even talking to them about how their rides outside can count towards value inside Zwift, which adds to the whole gamification element. So I think we've got to be true to our beliefs that we've got to be open, and that is got to be at home, in the gym, and on the road. All the Zwift management team, we ride bikes outdoors. We love it. We don't jump on the bandwagon of bad weather, dangerous roads. We just enable people to ride more often. It's just about problem solving.
Okay.
Yeah. In my opinion, it's two different markets. Okay, the Virtual Pro, for sure, is really working really well in the gym. And the Wahoo and the Tacx, in my opinion, is more specific. You can use at home. You can put your bike on the turbo. And in my opinion, if you want to improve a proper fit, if you want to come like a pro rider, it's better use something like this, like a Wahoo and or Tacx. So you can work in every day in the same position, and when you're going out to your turbo, you're going out to the road, so you can use the same muscle you use on the training during the week. Sorry for my English, it's still on the way. And but yes, the Virtual Pro, like a watt bike, is very easy to use and is so successful in the gym. So adding it to the Zwift software is an amazing opportunity, because you can go in the gym and use this iPad, and I don't know, your friend in Singapore jump on a turbo at 6 in the morning, you jump on a turbo at 12 p.m. and at the same time you can ride together. You can have a chat, you can have a conversation. It's a really good opportunity. But yes, it's two different markets. Depends what do you want,
There's certainly a place for the static bike, and I'm super keen to check out Virtua Pro. But our market is high-density megacities, and people live in Taipei, Tokyo, Sao Paulo. They just can't get out to ride. And then when you haven't got much space, or when you're a multi-dwelling household where you've got mum, kids, dad who all want to ride a bike, and we want him and to make static bikes, and we want to ride, mixed bike with Zwift, because it's all about flexibility. It goes back to what Humphrey was saying in the first panel. We just got to give choice to everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with Matteo. I think there are two different groups of people who use it. One group is typical group who go to the gym. They will always go to the gym for doing what they do, but they do chats as well and so on, socialization basically, and social life. And the second group is the group where they actually want to use their own bike with Tacx or Wahoo turbo trainers, and like Matteo mentioned, you use exactly the same position because you use the same bike, and then you just put the wheels on and spin off when you have a time or just travel somewhere. So there are two different kinds of groups, and with the a special bike made for it, I think it'll be another product that will join the fitness clubs rather than it will go to someone's home. People, at least I think that way, people rather want to buy a Tacx as a turbo trainer to add to their very expensive bike instead of buying a special device and then have another bike. I think there is not much space enough in your house if you live in such a place like London to just put something big in-house.
And if you have one, your wife as well, you want to do some exercise, it's easy for the virtual bike or the watt bike, because you can use both you and your wife, have a client, swap the watt bike.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think there's a lot of comfort in having that relationship between hardware and software and in that gamification and going more mainstream. If you think about, I guess it was 10 years ago, Rock Band and Guitar Hero at a slightly premium price point for a video game experience because you had to pay for the hardware and the software. But thinking about that pyramid, I mean, right now we're at the top end of the pyramid. How do we expand and offer this to a larger audience based on the demographics and location? I think Rock Band Guitar Hero blazed a nice path, which we can look to follow.
Okay.
So I don't know about the virtual bike, but the watt bike example, they have like a 170 crank. So 170 crank is very small. Normally we ride I ride in 175. Most of the people ride in 172.5. It's a massive, huge difference, 2.5 millimeter. It's a big difference. So it's completely different. I don't know the virtual bike. You're an ex-pro like me. you make something a little bit more. But the software with the watt bike is an amazing software as well, because it's so good. It's such a good watt bike.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ting?
I'm a fan of Wahoo and Tacx, actually.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, but no, I like the turbo, but I like riding outdoors more. But no, I personally think it's well, I think I'm more of a competitive-based person. I look at Strava a lot. I look at power numbers, which I think cycling is a sort of technologically wise, much further along than most other sports. But I do agree to reach that big market, which is the next challenge for you guys, and also people in other sports trying to do the same thing. You really need to broaden the appeal and have solutions that not just affordability, but access, etc., which is more has a bigger appeal, I think, and reach. The next topic we want to talk about is actually around virtual reality and sports, because we've seen the rise of esports, which is a huge market now. About 100 million participants per week. A lot of them in the Nordics. They're professionals. People sell everything from YouTube videos to brand endorsements to fund it. It's a big market. I mean, with the rise of great hardware like Wahoo and Tacx, and then the software from Zwift, do you see virtual cycling being a separate sport? Betfair already has their own market, which is virtual cycling, sort of Betfair driven. But Mick, what do you think as a former pro?
I first kind of got interested in this kind of virtual cycling, and it was 10 years ago, and the internet was becoming grand scale, or maybe even earlier. And I started thinking, how would it be possible one day to take part in the Tour de France from your home? And at the time, technology wasn't there to be able to put the sensors, the GPS sensors and speed sensors on the bikes and beam it up to a helicopter, then back down into the internet. But we're probably not too far away from that now. And then I think it gets really interesting. We can adapt our virtual worlds into, and you can race alongside Chris Froome. I mean, you probably won't stay with him, but at least you can try. But and then I think the opportunities really for esports. I mean, there could be the Tour de France. And I mean, that's and then obviously you open the door. There's just so many. Millions of possibilities to go into there.
I guess cycling needs it more than any other sport. To all intents and purposes, last 30, 40 years, it's been a bloke on a motorbike with a camera next to Mick with a helicopter above his head, and that's it. Nothing's changed. HD, I guess. And all of a sudden we put a camera on a bike. Isn't that amazing? Last year, it's like, come on, cricket, golf, rugby, tennis, motorsport. It's really data-driven. America's Cup. Who can believe what would happen with multi-hulls compared to single hulls and all the data? It's fascinating. And sport revolves around linear television, and I think everything goes back to media consumption, and kids nowadays don't watch telly. They're on computers and YouTube. So whether we like it or not, this is going to wash through. It's a generational thing, and it will happen. And when you think of cycling from a televisual point of view, there's so many more possibilities. But I think, we're thinking about how online platforms can be development pathways. When we go to Australia next, we're going to Canberra, which is Mixed Club, and we're going to give them some Zwift stations because we want Zwift to be a talent pathway for people, and that should be the same with running and rowing. And so, obviously a lot about hardware. In 2 years, we'd hope that Oculus thing, which is really heavy and sweaty, is predisposed to doing VR in the home. But within 10 years, it's probably going to happen on mainstream television with mainstream sport.
Okay. Well, I've got two questions for everybody. We'll review the answers at the end. If there was an Tour de France, of the current pro riders, who would win? You don't have to answer now. And then the second one's more controversial. And Steve, you can abstain if you like. Froome or Wiggins? So we will ask that question at the end, and you have to review your answers. Maybe it's time we take a question from the audience. Does anybody have a question? We've got a few more topics to go on, otherwise. Yeah, the lady over there.
I have a So I'm from Pure Gym, and one of the comments earlier that Humphrey had was most of our members are below 30, and cycling is very large in our gyms. Where do you see it going for those under 30? Because gamification to them is being chased by zombies or followed by something. It's not just having this virtual reality ride. So where does the panel see that going?
I think it's a great point. Zwift, as you see it there, as a studio offering, could look altogether different. And it's all about fun, you know, like being chased. We've looked at how you can be chased by animals, all kinds of silly stuff to motivate people. And I think you're quite right. I mean, we're only a year old, but that product there, to the average person who wants to get into fitness, looks competitive. And you're right, it needs to be fun. But our first step is really about how you take something that's synonymous with big TVs and gaming computers and make it in your pocket. So iPad is the first step. iPad that harmonises with hardware is the next step, and then the next step is coming to see you guys to provide an off-the-shelf solution that creates a social experience and fun experience. Because I guess when you're in Spin Studio, it's about training to zones, you know, so everybody's having the same kind of effort, and Zwift at the moment doesn't do that, but we'll probably have that cracked hopefully in the next 9 to 12 months.
Yeah, and I think if it's under 30, my observation has been that the competitive spirit for under 30 is a little lighter, and it is more about participation and social. And you can see that in the United States. I mean, SoulCycle, that's an experience that's really not competitive at all. It's about getting into a room, and they dim the lights, they have candles burning, and it's an experience that you and the 25 people there really have a bonding moment over that workout, and they pay a premium price for it. So, you know, there's still the data piece, but I think the data it's softened a little bit. It's gamified. Maybe it's shared with the riders afterwards. So if they want to dig into it, they can see that afterwards. They can track their progress, but it's not something that's necessarily being openly broadcast. There's some privacy there that I think is people are younger, a little bit more sensitive to. So yeah, I think it's getting the right balance. It's just the competitive nature of under 30s. It seems more about a participation thing than really just cranking it out and beating the person next to you. So being aware of that, I think, is important when we're thinking about next evolution.
Yeah, specifically as well, if we want to appeal to the female audience, where there's many more barriers, especially to do with cycling. So.
Okay. Is there?
I think one more thing to add to this. Most road cyclists are most people who actually buy a good bike and train on the road, which Zwift and Wahoo appeals to, are between 30-something, low 30s and late 60s. So when you mention about the group of under 30s, for example, we don't advertise for such group even, because it's a completely separate group for us.
Okay. Any other questions from the floor? Yeah, Tim.
Hi, it's interesting to hear you say that. We've seen a tremendous explosion of cycling in the UK, but the middle-aged man in Lycra is almost the sole constituency for that explosion. What role, remit, does the panel see for virtual reality cycling in expanding the sport, particularly to the under 30s who live their lives electronically on social media and games and the rest? Could this be a way ultimately to promote outdoor cycling?
Yeah, I think so. If you think about funding bodies like UK Sport and Sport England, and how they're under so much pressure to develop participation in sport, then the prohibiting factors there are playing fields, which are less and less, and equipment, when obviously budgets are under a lot of pressure. So that's an area where we want to go. But I think the middle-aged man in Lycra is synonymous with the UK. When you go to Japan, it is really young. It's very aspirational cycling. When you get to Asia now, I mean, it all used to be about the motor car. There's like sheikhs in the UAE just want gold bicycles now, not gold Lamborghinis. So it's a really broad church. But yeah, being UK specific, I think you need to pull it right into the grassroots, and kids is something that we've discussed at great length. and specifically with people like British Cycling as well. So there's conversations ongoing there.
I think next topic we want to discuss is really around what can other sports learn from the gamification in cycling, actually cycling in general, because if you look at cycling, the amount of technology you can buy, I mean, it's GDP of a small nation to start. I mean, maybe Mick, we'll start with you. I mean, what other sports? Being Australian, you must have played 15 sports when you're young. I mean, what other sports can learn from your experience in cycling?
Can you play cricket in a virtual world? I can't see that, eh? Like,
it's a business
it'd be
idea.
a big pitch, right?
Yeah, well, let's patent that now.
No, I mean, cycling is and running are rather easy, aren't they? Maybe rowing could be easy. Swimming, that's a tough one. Golf, I mean, it's already there. Actually, what really could be cool is we have all the sports in this one environment. So you're riding along the road and a golf ball goes over the top of your head. And I mean, there's these virtual worlds, and you look down on the right-hand side, there's the lake and the swimmers in there and the rowers.
And you can see your wife having tea on the side.
Yes, or, I mean...
Yeah.
I think, Mick, it's got to be something to do with training methods, right? Because you were part of Team Sky coining the aggregation of marginal gains. It's all about getting that bit extra. And if you want to ride a bike and you want to compete at the highest level, but you've got a day job, it's the same with triathlon. You need means and ways to train really efficiently. And I think that's what other sports can learn from cycling.
Exactly.
It's that controlled environment that Mick was talking about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, throughout my career, I saw it so many times that there's this concept as a cyclist that you have to do these long miles. You have to go out on the bike from the morning and stay out there all evening. But at the end of the day, it's that quality that will always trump the hours. And all this talk about Sky and why they've just flipped cycling, professional cycling on its side, because they literally understand that. They found Tim Kerrison, who's pulled him out of Australian swimming, brought him to the team the cycling team, let him observe the scenarios and the races, and he said, "You guys are crazy. You guys train too much. Let's bring the hours down. Let's bring the intensity up." And he just flipped the whole sport on the side. And indoor training, whether it's in virtual world or whether it's in your garage, it's the way of the future. It's the way of the future.
One other thing, I mean, if you think back to Nintendo Wii, I mean, we've kind of already been there with tennis and bowling. I mean, I threw out my arm multiple times playing Wii tennis. I mean, it's almost to the point you need surgery for that. You get really into it. So I think, that's a couple years ago. We've been down that road, and opportunities to, tie it into the sending the data up to the cloud, doing leagues, some competitive, but it could be just playing with your friends from all over the world. I think when the Wii came out, it didn't have that level of capability for that connected experience. So I think now that we're seeing that, and that's one of the great reasons why Zwift is grown, because of that community. I think it's playing into that a bit more. But I think this is. I think you're going to see a resurgence now that you're seeing cycling having success. There's going to be other sports that will take a fresh look at how they can really build that community around there. And I think that's where the Wii started, but it didn't complete the full circle.
Okay. And I think next, we want to talk a bit about sort of what technologies, just generally, it could be from cycling and other areas as well, that excites you for the future. I mean, Matteo, what are you seeing out there that really excites you?
I can see, this idea to do the, Tour de France on the turbo is a really great idea. Last year I organized one challenge on the Zwift, and it was very, very successful. Organizing for like 20 big banks all around London. It was an amazing fun. I don't know if you remember, Ting. Yeah. The future, yes, for sure. In the summer, you definitely more enjoy to get out on the road and cycle outside. But we can organize in I don't know in a winter series, jump on a Zwift, and doing a proper challenge. This is probably one of my objectives of 2017. I have a proposal yesterday, so probably I'm going to run one big one next year. And the Zwift, I like to use Zwift because, last year we're doing the challenge on the Watopia climb. Yeah. And it was very good. Yeah. It's just 2 minutes, full gas. And, it's not a very long section, so you can jump in and try to understand where is your feedback and compared to your colleague, Yeah. And it was a very good fun. And so next year we need to think in something really cool, a ramping, good schedule. I'm thinking already, probably we're organizing like a team challenge, maybe Santander, try to challenge BNP Paribas and HSBC, Bloomberg, this kind of thing to make it, because we need to make fun. Otherwise, it's so boring to stay on the turbo and pedaling like this. We need to have an objective. If you don't have any objective, in the normal life is the same, If you don't have an objective, okay, you wake up and what do you think? What I do today. This is the point. So the objective is, Santander. You need to push in hard.
Yeah. Let me make a few calls.
This kind of thing.
Yeah, Marcin, what do you see? What big technology or events?
I think it's all about incremental steps right now. I've just came back from Eurobike, and to my surprise, there was nothing groundbreaking, and I've been there already a number of years. So I think it's all about those small steps where we can improve stuff. There hasn't been new aluminium invented that could save us so much more than the current one. So I don't think it's about this. I think why we're here is because the gamification or the indoor training for customers is growing huge just because of people lacking basically time to train outside where the weather is bad or where they have just 1 or 2 hours to do something. And it's so much easier to just grab the bike, put it on a turbo trainer and spend, 45 minutes riding like I've used to do in the corporation, and then 15 minutes for shower and you go work. With the normal bike, where you go outside, it's completely not possible.
Okay, I've been told we're just about running out of time. So there will be a demo with Wahoo and Tacx hardware and Zwift software, including the first VR demo in the UK of Zwift, and it's been. I think there's a lot of excitement around that. So that will be going on during the networking lunch. So the last bit is, who would win an e-Tour de France? Steve?
Well, if it was Bradley or Chris Froome, I'd go with Bradley, because that's where my loyalties are. But it'd have to be like, if you take them both on the top of their game, I'd go with Bradley.
And for the e-Tour de France as well?
It'd be very difficult to get that guy on Zwift.
Okay. Kevin?
This is an easy answer for me. Wahoo's the official sponsor of Team Sky. So Chris Froome is the answer on both.
Okay. Simon? Tom Dumoulin?
Yeah, that was my answer, actually. If I have to choose between Froome and Wiggins, I think I would really like to see Wiggins win again. But Dumoulin winning the Tour de France would be quite awesome someday.
Yeah. Nick?
I'd have to go with Bradley.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time with Bradley in my career, and for 2012 tour, I was his kind of right-hand man. He's just a rock star. I think, every goal that he sets out to do, he reaches.
Yeah. Except Paris-Roubaix.
Sorry?
Except Paris-Roubaix.
Well, that's a difficult one. But he was still up there. He was still up there. He was still up there. Finishing first or 8th or 10th in Paris-Roubaix is literally luck. But definitely Bradley.
Yeah. Unless you're Tom Boonen. Marcin?
I think a bit differently. If we talk about everyone, I'm sure that there are people trained enough on a turbo trainer that could compete with Bradley or Froome. So even looking at Strava, people take it to the extreme. So I'm not sure if actually the professional riders would be on the top, looking at how many people actually can compete. Because what we look here is just they've been training for years and they got to the group early. But so many people are actually training really hard, not participating in professional sport, really. So that could be challenging. I mean, that could be interesting, seeing people actually going really hard.
Okay, can we have a name?
I can't put a name.
Okay.
I'm just guessing. Yeah, I'm just guessing.
Matteo? Other than Matteo or Nick?
No, for sure, in my opinion, you know, because if you look at the style of Froome, he never look around. He just look in the machine and let's go. So for sure he win Froome, 100%, because he's thinking he's on the turbo, you know.
Yeah.
You don't think so?
No, I do think so. Okay, well, thanks everybody.